Welcome, everybody. My name is Hayden Green, and it is time to start the show. We are at the 2021 version of Story to Tell. Again, my name is Hayden Green, and I am the Director of Multicultural Affairs here at Manhattan College and the founding director of the Multicultural Center, which is a space for all identities to find their own space of and call it home to grow and thrive and to learn more about identities that they may not have had interaction with. Tonight is one of the programs that I love the absolute most. It's called Story to Tell. I'm a big Biggie fan, so one of my favorite songs from Biggie is Story to Tell. We can't play that here because if you know the song, but Biggie was such a storyteller. He was a person who really brought you into his world and really made you experience everything that he was going through, and he had a real deft way with words. And tonight I am proud to bring to you a group of storytellers that are going to talk to you about their experiences, their worlds, and really bring you into all of the things that make up the diaspora that we call this country. So without further ado, I am happy to bring to the mic one of my really favorite friends and a person who I lean on during these troubling times because he is really funny and he is a blurred just like I am, and also a college administrator just like I am, and I am proud to call him a friend. Put your hands together for a really engaging story about his engagement, Mr. Anthony Otero.
What up, y'all? I don't know if I'm that funny, so you already put that expectation out there, but that's cool. So I got a story to tell you. Okay, so it's a real engaging story. Happened a couple of years ago. So I had a plan. Okay, I had a plan that I was going to buy this ring. Okay, and in doing that, I began to realize there are things that people just don't tell you when it comes to buying rings, particularly engagement rings. Now, I have a partner who had over the years had sent me, links of rings that she, wanted to sort of make sure that I got the right one, because she's the type of person that she would watch, I think it was Sex in the City. And there was this episode of Carrie who got a ring from a guy and she didn't like it. And thus the engagement was over. I didn't want to be that dude. Okay. So I waited for a good time when she was on a conference. I went to the Diamond District in New York City. And here's another thing they don't tell you, that if you go to the Diamond District after 5 o'clock, everything's closed. So I then had to wait and plan and continue to wait. What you're going to realize is that the story is about planning, boxes, and rings. So the next time that I had a chance to do this was somewhere around November of the same year. I was able to take one of her websites, Google the store that was selling it. And I said, you know what, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to get this ring. Okay. What they didn't tell me is that I needed the ring size. Okay. So I got her sister to get me a ring of hers, steal it right out. So she got this nice little ring. This is not the actual ring. I go present it, pick it out. Perfect. Okay. Remember that. Okay. Then I said, okay, well, when's the ring going to be ready? Well, the ring could be ready in about a few weeks. Cool. But I kind of need to I kind of need you to keep it until the first week of December, because I'm going to go down to Florida because I had a plan. So I'm going to go down to Florida, visit family. I had a nice little place picked out. I think it's called a timeshare. And I'm going to, pop the question, maybe around some water, maybe not. It depends. But I still had a plan. Okay. December rolls around. First Monday in December, I'm happy. I go, I get the ring. Okay. And they're like, okay, you can sign it out. Here's your box. Okay. This is the box. That's interesting. Where am I going to put this box? I have a bag, but it's not going to fit in this box. I can't put it in my pocket. Did I mention that I'm in New York City? Did I mention I have to take the train down to Harlem? Now, I'm not saying Harlem's bad. Love Harlem. If you think anything is bad about that, then you might be racist. But what I decided to do was to do the next best thing, because I'm going to go and I'm going to get a bag. But if you live with your partner, you know that if you buy anything, it gets inspected. What you get me? What you get? What you got? Okay, so what is the one thing that I know that I can buy that she's never going to look at? Comic books. So I walked my ass over to Midtown Comics, and it was about a 20-block walk because I was on the east side, and I picked up Bitch Planet 2, must read. Got that, couple of Black Panther books, put this box into the bag, and I was good. I hid my ring at work. I worked at Columbia, Barnard College. I hid it at work until it was time to go to Florida. So the day before I left, I got it, kept it in the bag, kept that bag somewhere around my suitcase. She never looked at it. She didn't need to because it's comic books. She's not going to read those. Cool. Then I realized, all right, well, I can't take the bag with me, but I got to put the box in my suitcase. Do I put it in my suitcase? What if the luggage goes missing? What if TSA all of a sudden needs to ask me what's in the box? So now my plan's not looking so good. So I decided, well, you know what? I'm going to put this in my carry-on with my laptop, nudge it in there nice, quick. No one will know. Go through TSA. I'm good, right? Now I go to the timeshare that my parents own. Okay, everything is good. They're happy. They're there. They're waiting for me. Everything is great. The plan is going well. Until my stepmother is like, I have champagne in the back when you're ready to celebrate. Celebrate what? Oh, that's right. It's December. The new year. Yeah, sure. Thanks. Get out. So it's a long trip. Tired. Have my box in a bag. Cool. Let's take a nap. Okay. Wake up from a refreshing nap. She's got her iPad. The iPad that was in my bag. The iPad that was in my bag with the ring. Oh, snap. So get up, gingerly walk over to my bag. The ring's still there. It's in the box. I'm cool. So I ask her, so do you go through my bag? Yeah, I just wanted to get the iPad. Nothing. Cool. All right. I need to ask her the question tonight because what I was going to do, because I had a plan, was I was going to go and wait for a beautiful night, maybe 2 days from now, after we had a nice massage. No, it's got to happen tonight because there's something telling me that if it doesn't happen tonight, something's going to go wrong. Okay. So again, in Florida, it's about 90 degrees. Actually, scratch that. It's about 70 degrees. We picked about the coldest weather in Florida to go to in Florida. And I realized that I only have shorts. And I have a box. I can't put the box in my shorts. Why do they make a box for the box? I don't know. But I now have to take my ring out of the box and put it in my shorts and go to eat dinner and still have the ring nestled somewhere in my pocket that hopefully I don't lose. Dinner's fine. Dinner's great. I'm like, okay, the sun is going down. Need to go. I go to this nice little place, water, gazebo, thing is fine. We sit down. She has no idea what's going on. It's not like we ever walk in a park in Harlem where there's gazebo because it doesn't really exist, or at least not on our part of Harlem. So sit down, wait, and I realize I don't know how I'm going to do this. So I do the best thing I can do, the manliest thing I do. I decide that I'm going to tie my shoe and be on one knee. And she never turns around. She looks down there because, of course, smart me goes, please look over there. She looks over there, and then she continues, and I'm on my knee. I have to tap her on the shoulder. She looks down. She's like, what are you doing? I ask her the question. She's surprised, apparently, says yes, and that is my engaging story. I hope you enjoyed.
Thank you so much, Anthony. I enjoyed that. I love engagement stories. They always go wrong. I have not heard one where it's like, no, everything happened exactly the way that I planned it. I've never heard one. Thank you for sharing. And we are going to move on to our next presenter. So this has been a year. I don't know anybody who has had I've had a great year. But we have all been respectful and really thankful for a certain group of people who have really put themselves out there all year long. And those are our first responders. And I have the pleasure of having a friend who is a first responder who is a decorated firefighter. And it is our pleasure to bring him to the mic tonight. And so he can tell you a little bit about where that decoration came from. So put your hands together for Abe Miller.
Thanks. I'm a little out of my element up here, but my name is Abe Miller. I'm a firefighter in Harlem on the west side by City College. I've been on the job for about 5.5 years or so. So far, it's great. It's a great job, very fulfilling job. I love working in Harlem, like neighborhood, and where I see people like me, and they're not used to, and they love seeing like when we respond and we show up, especially some of the elderly people. Sometimes they're like, oh wow, they're like, you know, that they stuck in their tracks sometimes. But my story is we rescued back in September during the like tail end of the pandemic. Is still going on, but we were able to rescue a five-year-old girl from a pretty serious fire in Washington Heights on 158th Street. And we rescued her. She was, her and her grandmother were seriously exposed to a lot of heat and smoke. So we were able to rescue her by, I rappelled off of the side of a building and did a roof rope rescue to this young girl, and was able to pull her out of a window and safely rappel all the way down to the ground and take her out of harm's way. And later next month we're gonna be honored for that. But that's basically my story that we're sharing. And you know, we were able to rescue her grandmother, and at that fire total, we rescued total companies. We rescued about 12 people out of that fire. So it was a good moment, especially for the way 2020 was going at that point. So that's my story. And my engagement also went wrong also, just to throw that out there. Thanks.
Hey, what was going through your mind when you were going to rappel down that building?
Honestly, it was all a blur. Honestly, it's like I really didn't know. I had to piece together what happened afterwards. It was all just like, you know, muscle memory just took over. It's almost like somebody was guiding us, like, you know, somebody was pulling the strings, like we were puppets up there. And then later on, when we got down, once all the adrenaline was gone, we're like, yo, did that really just happen? Did we really just did that? And we had to piece together what was said, what happened. It was a crazy night, but it was we're just glad everything turned out well. And I was able to reconnect with that child. They came to the firehouse a couple of months ago, and the grandmother told the story. It's really crazy hearing the story from her. She's really the grandmother in that story is really the hero. She did some things that really saved their life. She got her and her granddaughter to the window, and she was literally holding the child out of the window just so the child could breathe from the air. And I just happened to look over the side of the building, and I just saw the little hands. I just saw, like, I thought it was a baby. I just saw like her little hands out of the window through the smoke or whatever. And then we grabbed her, and some other guys from another company, Squad 41, were able to, after we found their location, they were able to go in and get the grandmother also. So they both came out with minimal injuries considering the circumstances.
What did your son say when you told him?
He was like, "You did what?" He was like, you know, he's so literal, like, isn't that dangerous? I was like, oh, well, that was kind of what we signed up for, you know. But that was just a beautiful story of, especially for the year we had with that. You know. So yeah, that's my brief story. Thank you, guys.
So Abe is modest because that's a dope story. Thank you so much for all of your service. So like Abe, full disclosure, Abe's son goes to school with my daughter, and the next day it's like, my daddy's Spider-Man. And we love Abe in the school. So again, thank you so much, Abe. And you know, we're proud to have you among us. And I thank you so much for your story. So Abe is from the Bronx. We're going to swing it down to the other B borough, to Brooklyn. Brooklyn in the house. You know, we got a story to tell. So we're going to respect Biggie and Brooklyn. So this young man, and I'm giving him the honor of calling him a young man because he's my age group, and I ain't been young since the Carter administration. And so This young man is from Brooklyn. He is a member of Kappa Alpha Psi and an old friend of mine. And I'd like to bring to the mic Mr. Tim Pratt, who's going to tell us some more stories. Come on up, Tim.
I appreciate that great introduction. I've got a couple of stories to tell, but I'm just going to stick with one. I've got a crazy engagement story, but that's been done already. I'm going to tell a story about how I saved my wife's life. And that's not a euphemism. I actually saved her life on the first night of our honeymoon. So there's a backstory, okay? We got married on a Saturday. It's a great, great day. It's beautiful. Friends, 250 guests, live band, wonderful night. An older fraternity brother told me that when you get back to your honeymoon suite at the end of the wedding, take the time with your new bride to go through all your cards, read all the messages that you get from everyone. So we did that, and it was rewarding. It really was. Just looking at everything that everyone said, how they felt, it kind of put the whole day into perspective and the life-changing moment that we've embarked on into perspective. The next day, we had a wedding brunch. It was a barbecue at my family's house. We got minimal sleep the night before because we stayed up reading all of these notes from all of our guests that were there, plus people that weren't there. So the next day, we have a full day where we have a smaller group of a gathering of people, barbecue. That goes all night. Now that Monday, so we got married on Saturday, the barbecue on Sunday. Monday, we're leaving for our honeymoon. We're flying to Hawaii. Never been to Hawaii. So I had the idea to stay up all night after the barbecue so that I could sleep on the plane. It's a long flight. In my head, this is a great idea. I've done it before. Stay up the night before, you're flying west, sleep on the plane, you wake up, you're there, you're ready to go. So stayed up all night, talking, laughing with friends. Early flight, we head to the airport, JFK, fly out. We land in San Antonio. Now we're still kind of wired and amped up. So we stay awake on the leg from New York to San Antonio. Now we're going to fly out to Hawaii. So I'm sure there's nothing but water out there. We're going to sleep. The funny thing about sun, blue light, and your kind of messes with your circadian rhythm, right? Blue lights block your ability to produce melatonin, which is what helps you to sleep, which is why sometimes in Alaska, people have trouble falling asleep when they have those long nights. So anyway, needless to say, I stay awake on the entire flight to Honolulu, to Maui. We land about 3 o'clock local time. Now we've been told, from various friends, all the things that we should do when we get to Hawaii. We've got to go here, we've got to go there. One of the places after we land, we get the rental car, put our bags, we're ready to go to our honeymoon suite in Hana, Maui. I don't know if anyone's ever heard about the Hana Highway. It's a pretty famous highway, and if you ever Google it or look at it, you'll kind of see why. So we get in the car and we're ready to drive to our honeymoon suite in Hana, Maui. And as we're about to leave, we see one of the places that friends had told us that we had to go to. It's Mama's Fish House. I said, it's right there. Well, why go past it? We haven't had dinner. Let's stop at Mama's Fish House. It measures up and beyond what everybody had said about this place. Fresh fish, right on the water. The best seafood experience I'd ever had in my life to this point. So our honeymoon is going famously well. We stay there. It's about 4, 5 o'clock when we get there. We finish dinner and we're ready to leave. We start asking people how to get to the Hana Highway. The place where we're staying is at the end of the Hana Highway. Now, this is 2006. So the iPhone is not a big thing. We don't have it. We still got flip phones or whatever. So we don't have Google Maps in our phone. When you're still in the mode of asking for directions, there's GPS in the car, but we want to know exactly where we're going. Now we start asking some people how to get to Hana Highway. And I'm getting a strange reaction from everyone I ask. How do you get to Hana Highway? They're like, Hana Highway? You sure you want to do that? I'm like, yeah. Now I know from where we are, the Hana Hotel, the Hana Resort of where we're staying, it's probably 20 miles. So I'm thinking half-hour driving time tops. I asked 3 different people. They say it's close by, but they're all giving us this strange look. How do we get there? Like, why are you leaving now? It's like, okay, the sun is setting just as we finished dinner. It's a beautiful sunset. So we're kind of on the north border, if you're thinking about where the island is. So we're facing out kind of northwest. So we can see the sunset. It's beautiful right in the water. The beach is right there. So we're like, okay, we get the directions. We know where we're going. So by the time we're loaded in the car and ready to go, it's dark. So we're driving. I'm anticipating a 30-minute drive. We start driving. We get up onto the Hana Highway. Now, the Hana Highway is a 2-lane road, and it winds up the mountain. It's pretty high. I'd say maybe 500 to 700 feet above sea level, and thinking that the sea level is 0. And then you wind back down. So we go on our drive. Now, mind you, got married on Saturday, maybe slept an hour. Sunday, stayed up all night. Got on the flight on Monday, and it's time to get on the flight. We stayed awake on the flight. We're still awake. So we're close to 70 hours on adrenaline. So anyway, we get on the road, and we very quickly understand why people were looking at us like we were crazy for driving the Hana Highway late at night. It's dark. It's 2 lanes. You literally have to pull to the side to let any traffic coming this way to go by. Now, if you think about in the movies where you see these treacherous roads on the sides of mountains and cliffs, that's this highway. There are no guardrails. You just wind around. Thankfully, it's dark, so we can't really see off the edge of the road. But I can see as we're going up, if we're turning towards the right, if I look out over the water, I can see waves breaking against the rocks down at the bottom as it turns white. So that, for us in view, is a decent moon, so there's some light there. So I'm like, wow, this is crazy. So we keep going. Your top speed is probably 20 miles an hour. That's how treacherous the road is. Hairpin turns. It's not a gradual turn. You're literally almost doing a U-turn to come back around to loop forward to go around. A couple times cars are pulling. My new bride is a little nervous, but she's getting tired. And while she's in the passenger seat, I'm driving, she's falling asleep. She listens to James Taylor, so we're listening to James Taylor on the radio. There's a vegetation canopy over the road. So now, as we go further, it's really dark. There's no moonlight, no stars, nothing. It's dark, and it starts to rain. So we get to the top. Now we've got to cycle down. So as we're going down, things are just starting to glass over. I'm awake, but not as alert as I could be. So I'm driving, the music's playing. We've probably been driving for 2 hours now. 20 miles, 2 hours. We're going down, we're coming down. And I get to one hairpin turn. And as we're coming down, we start sliding. I'm like, we're coming to an edge, the cliff. We're gonna fall over. I'm like, oh my God. Me saying, oh my God, wakes her up. She looks at me. I'm looking out at the sea. I'm standing up on the brake, and the car is sliding. I reach over to her door, pull the door, open it, push her out the door. and say, save yourself. This is not conjecture. I don't know why I said that, but I did. I push her out the door. The car is still sliding. She's out the door barefoot, grabs the door of the car. To no avail. You cannot stop a car. We slide, go off the side, and bang, the car stops. And it's teetering off the edge of the highway. I'm standing there. She's holding the door outside. It's almost like, what's the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger where the pelican lands on the truck and it tips over and falls in the water? It feels like that. We're balancing. I can feel it. We're not going over. I jump out the car. So that's how I saved her life. That's not the end of the story. We back up away from the car. I look underneath. I can see the car is balancing on the axle of on the asphalt. The front of the car is teetering over the edge. So, okay, now the Hana Highway, it's not a residential neighborhood. We saw a house maybe 2 miles back. There's no cell service. We're in this vegetative area where there's no cell signal. You can't feel the rain because there's that much vegetation over the top. So we're like, there's no traffic. So no one's coming. So we start walking back. Maybe we can get to the house, call someone, because you can't drive that car. The back wheels are off the ground. It's balancing on the axle. We start heading back to the house that we saw 2 miles back. We're walking. She's barefoot. Of course, we're not going to go in the car to get her shoes. So we're walking. After about 20 minutes of walking, we see headlights coming towards us. Thank God. The car stops. Are you guys okay? We look at each other. We're like, you know what? Thank God, we're okay. Okay, great, bye. And drove off. So we didn't do that right. So we keep walking. Those guys are gone. We keep walking. About another 20 minutes, another car comes. These people that come are clearly locals because as soon as they see us walking on this road, they stop and everybody jumps out the car. Oh my God, are you okay? I give my wife credit. She held herself together through this entire ordeal. When these people got there, she fell to pieces. She starts crying and throwing up at the same time. I'm trying to explain to the woman that's from the other car of what happened. So in all of this craziness, my wife is violently throwing up. So she's like, hold on. She goes into her bag and pulls out what looks like an eyedropper. And she's like, hold your head back, hold your head back. She pulls out the eyedropper and starts dropping it into her mouth. And all that I can think is that she's not going to do that to me. I'm going to wake up on someone rotisserie in the middle of nowhere. But instantly, my wife feels better. Turns out this woman was a homeopathic healer or something, and she was dropping ginger root into her mouth. It settled her stomach. We told her everything what happened. So, let's go see the car. So they have this great big truck. So we get in the truck. They drive us. We had probably walked maybe a little bit more than a mile. They drive us to the scene of the accident. We look at the car. Me and the husband that's in the other car, we kind of look at it and we have the bright idea that we can remedy this. Let's tie a rope. I've got a rope in the back. Let's put a rope around the axle. I can pull the car back onto the road and we can be on our way. It's the first day of our honeymoon. I almost killed my bride. I'm thinking about her parents. Like, I've got to make this right. So we tie a rope to the axle. I get back into the death trap. He pulls to where the rope is tight. I start the car up. I tell him, I said, okay, as soon as I feel the wheels hit the ground, I'm going to hit it in reverse. We'll go back and we'll be good as new. I'm sitting in the driver's seat. I feel him pulling. Car is going back a little bit. I feel the wheels hit the ground. As that registers in my brain, I go to hit the gas for it to roll back. The rope snaps. The car, which was kind of on an angle, turns and goes straight down. And it almost sounds like Jurassic Park, where you hear the creaking of everything and it starts sliding down. Now I'm literally standing on the dashboard in the car. The car is facing straight down. I'm standing straight up on the dashboard, and the car starts going down. Rocks, everything. I'm thinking we're basically at the peak of the mountain. Starts going down, and boom, it locks on a tree root. I jump out the car. I can hear my wife screaming. Oh my God. The lady is trying to comfort her. It's okay. It's okay. I'm thinking I'm dead. I know I'm dead. I get out of the car. I climb back up the side of the mountain. I can see that it's stuck on a tree root. The car is being balanced by a tree root. I come up. I get on top of the road. I'm like, this is crazy. So I'm still alive. I'm happy. All right, we'll leave it there. We tell them where we're staying. They said, we'll take you there. The hotel is literally not even a quarter of a mile down the road. We get to the hotel. It is the most amazing, to this day, the most amazing hotel we've ever stayed in my life. If you ever go to Maui, you have to stay at the Hana Hotel Resorts. Nope. Beautiful. I would say fly in. So anyway, so we get there. It's beautiful. It's perfect. I mean, infinity pool, everything. We wake up the next day. We go in and get breakfast. We talk to the owner of the hotel. They'd already heard the story. They was like, you just make sure soon, about 8 o'clock, call Timmy, the tow truck driver. They know him by name. He'll come and he'll help you out. Fine. So Timmy, the tow truck driver, comes. We go and look in the daylight, and it's much more treacherous than we see it in the daylight. We get the car pulled up, back up on the road, take it back to the rental place. They take the car because I'm breaking stuff here. We put it back. We get a new car. And then we go to breakfast. Did I just ruin everything? As we're there, you know, they say that you can never go anywhere and not run into someone from Brooklyn. So there's a family there from Brooklyn that's in this restaurant. They were on a bus tour. And we're talking about Brooklyn. And then we tell them who we are. It was like, we heard about your story when we started our tour. Our tour guide told us about these newlyweds that have driven to Hana and drove off the cliff because their bus came in prior to us getting it towed out. But anyway, we were famous in Maui. We came back. That was 15 years ago, and 2 kids later. We're fine. I saved my wife's life, and that's the story. I've got pictures too.
My God. So I've known Tim for God knows how long. I know his wife. His wife is on right now, and she's just nodding her head at this whole story. Oh my God. And I have never heard this story. So this is one of the reasons I love events like this, because you get to hear stories that you probably would not have heard erstwhile they stood up on a stage and told the whole world about it. So Tim, thank you so much for that. And I'm never going to that hotel ever again. I think the funniest part of that story is the lie that he told, that he stayed up all night on his wedding night reading cards.
None of your business.
Reading cards? Yeah, okay. All right, well, I'm going to bring up another storyteller right now. This young lady is new to the campus, but she has, in the short time that she has been here, just really done some amazing work with the women's basketball team and the Black Lives Matter, and just really has what I can't use any other word than transformed the way that the students interact with the campus here at Manhattan College. It is my pleasure to bring to the mic Kiki Griffith, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, hello, everyone. Where do I begin? This story is really more of a reflection than it is story for me. Our team has been involved with raising our voices up in this past year, just with everything that's going on with police brutality, racism, and violence, as it impacts our campus community as well as our surrounding Bronx and Riverdale communities. So I'll get started on reading my story here. Again, where do I begin? After so many conversations with friends and family following the murder of Amadou, Sean, Trayvon, Michael, Eric, Tatiana, Sandra, Philando, Ahmad, Elijah, George, Brianna, Dante, Makia, just to name only a few, I'm reminded of the many who look just like me, my players, co-workers, friends, family, who no longer can speak for themselves. We are here because it should no longer be a choice to start and sustain a conversation on the impact of racial injustice and inequality in this country. The first step in this fight is naming, storytelling. Let's name white supremacy. Let's name racism. Let's name misogyny. Let's name systemic racism. For in fact, we are not removed from the physical manifestation of lynching. It has only evolved into police brutality, redlining, gentrification, food insecurity, healthcare inequality, poor resource distribution to low-income neighborhoods, education disparities, and so much more. Sport, in particular, has always been a microcosm of society. So we would be missing an opportunity if we did not work to address this issue holistically. Many of us stand amongst you on this campus representing college athletics, knowing that our voices reach far beyond 242nd Street. It's crazy to think that 5 years ago, maybe even 2, maybe even less than that, the very politically correct PR statements addressing police brutality and violence from sports teams, leagues, and organizations were few and far in between. I appreciate the direction that we're headed, but I have to be honest, I'm not all the way convinced. And neither was women's basketball all of the way convinced. October 19th, 2020 changed the face of women's basketball here on campus. It wasn't a moment to shine. It wasn't a moment to strut our egos. It was a moment to sit in our feelings, expressing the exhaustion of police brutality and its impact on Black people. I stood up to the podium, looking out into the quad, and took a breath. I know when I take a breath, tears may fall, but this time they didn't, at least not then. I slowly read through my introduction, pronouncing every word and every syllable, making sure my point got across to our listeners. Listeners who were white administrators, white faculty, everyone who's on this campus who you could think of was on the quad that night. It was Maya Angelou's poem that tripped me up towards the end of my introduction, I Rise. It's a culmination of strength, courage, bravery, and an in-depth symbol of our history as Black people. Tears began to fall. And what do you do when you're in front of almost 100 people still reading? You read through the tears so they feel just an ounce of what you're going through. And as we look at the Black experience across the country, it is a well-known and widely accepted fact that Black people face harsher realities unbeknownst to our white counterparts. The mere color of our skin, how we wear our hair, and even the way we talk is a threat to some. We know what the challenges are. We have the research, the statistics, and most important, the stories that highlight these issues not only in our country, but even on this campus. Understanding how to approach this revolution with awareness and pace will take us beyond what we can imagine. And while expanding the number of voices in our community arguably opens up room for more inclusivity, we must keep in mind that some voices will still be undermined in the process. Building bridges between how we learn, how we live, and the relevance of what we are learning, putting the values of equality and equity at the front of this revolution will give us space to reimagine what was unimaginable for our ancestors. When we see that obstacles present themselves in our own campuses, sometimes it feels like we just accept the way things are. Different measures have been put in place to work to bridge the gap nationally and likely on our own campuses. But unfortunately, the gap still exists. Racism is a choice. Ignorance is a choice. Hate is a choice. Insanity is saying we will do and be better over and over again, only to achieve the same results. Now let's put action behind our words. The civil unrest in this country is not a mistake. Good and necessary trouble is the core of our past, present, and future, as former Congressman John Lewis would name it. In the past few days, weeks, months, years, generations, we have felt it all and we have seen it all. It should be no surprise that a jury may make the correct decision one day, but we will hear the story of another murder the next. Feel the joy of accountability, feel the hope of justice, but also feel the anger that comes with knowing there may be something next. Our joys and sorrows can coexist. Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything, and let us believe in solidarity. Thank you.
Thank you, Kiki. Those are words that we definitely need in these times. It is a revolutionary time in our nation where there are so many things that are happening that are great, and then at the same time, so many things that are happening that are still taking the steps back. And thank you for your experience, and thank you so much for the work that you are doing here on campus. Again, thank you so much, Kiki. All right, so Kiki is a member of a sorority. She is part of Alpha Kappa Alpha. She referenced John Lewis, who is a member of Phi Beta Sigma, which is my fraternity. Tim, who came up before, is a member of Kappa Alpha Psi. And I'm just throwing all of this stuff out there because all of those organizations are really about networking and about reaching out and being connected with people. And I wanted to really play onto that whole connection piece, because the next person coming to the mic is somebody who I have never met in my entire life, but simply saw the bat signal when I put it out there. And that's really what being connected is about. And we still don't really know how she got connected with us, but we are so happy that April Bodie is here tonight. She is a writer. She works for iHeartRadio. She's originally from Atlanta, but she lives in Harlem right now. So she's going to come up and talk about something that I know a lot of women have the same experience, and I'm so happy that she's sharing her experience with us. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for April Bodie.
Thank you. Yes, I have no idea. He's like, I don't know this woman, but she's on my show. Yeah, so I'm gonna talk about the joys of Black girl magic, fibroids. She's like, yes, but yeah, that part. Because it's as if it's not hard enough being a woman, and then now we gotta have, reproductive issues. And like since high school, I had endometriosis, and all throughout my 20s. But then I hit my 30s, and my fibroids was like, here, hold my beer. And they also try to take my life, like not once, but twice with the fibroids, which sounds crazy because fibroids just sound like you went too wild with broccoli and chia seeds, not like how serious they are. But the problem with fibroids is they grow and they grow and they grow. And that happened to me back in 2018. It was a scary time because I had lost so much blood that I had to have a myomectomy. And at the time, okay, yeah, so I do comedy, right? So I wrote a joke because it's comics. You're like, oh, let me write through my pain. So I wrote a joke about this. Now, mind you, this was BC before COVID. And a lot of y'all can relate to being stuck in the house at this point. But at that time, like 6 weeks recovery, like I was going crazy, right? And I'm on all these drugs like Percocet, Oxy, Molly. Just kidding. Lil Wayne was my doctor, y'all. But I would just remember on all these drugs, like just deleting tweets from 2012. Like, I'm not gonna be Kevin Hart and canceled. But before the surgery, I had to get some tests done. And the doctor was like, you need to get a DNC. And I was like, a DNC? Let me ask my second doctor, Google. And I was like, the Democratic National Committee is in my womb? And that is what fibroid pain feels like. Just a bunch of angry protesters on your uterus, led by Maxine Waters, like, reclaim your uterus, sis. But it was actually DNC, not DNC. Yeah, had that part wrong. But yeah, that was a joke or whatever. But at the time when I had that surgery, the doctor removed like 10 fibroids, and one was the size of a football. And I was like, okay, I'm thinking I'm gonna be fine, back on the mend after the Super Bowl fibroids, right? But nope. This past year in December, it like got really, really bad. And I remember I was walking to the train to run some errands. It was December 16th, I won't forget. But I was walking to the train and I passed out. And this woman like came over to me. Like, luckily it was like a New York moment where people were just like, we gotta go, move, sis, move out the way. But no, this woman came, she stayed with me the whole time. And then this guy came over. I overheard him. He's on the phone calling 911. And he's like, yo, this lady just fell, her eyes in the back of her head. And I guess they were asking for like a description or whatever. And they got to my age and he was like, she's 30. Nah, late 30s. No, before that, I thought I was going to see Jesus. But when he said that, I woke up. Like I came to, I sat right up. And I was like, I know we're not out here telling ages. like I don't moisturize and take collagen. So at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be all right. But I was rushed to the hospital. And at that time, you couldn't really have visitors. So I was like FaceTiming my friends, like telling them what was going on. And these are the type of friends you need when you're going through stuff. So I'm in the hospital and my friend was like, so what's fainting like? I've always seen it. It seems cool in the movies. He's like, but they always faint. They faint on the Chase Lounge. And then he tells his husband, we need to get April a fainting couch because she needs protection in the streets. I'm like, a fainting couch. Okay. So anyway, at the hospital at that time, I found out that my iron was like at a 5 and it's supposed to be older than your age, which apparently we know my age. And it was not that. And my hemoglobins were below a 7. It's supposed to be higher than that as well. So I had to get a blood transfusion. And that went on for a few weeks. Like I kept getting blood transfusions. And at that point I became an Avenger. Like I had 3 blood transfusions and the donors were like my Infinity Stone, the way that I was going through blood transfusions. Because there's not a lot of treatments for fibroids, unfortunately, unless you, like there are some surgeries, but other than that, it's like a hysterectomy. And if you want kids, then that's kind of a problem. So I had something else that's a little safer, so I'm happy to be doing okay now. But I just find it like fascinating because so many women go through this, but no one talks about how dangerous fibroids are. And I'm just trying to make fibroids funny again. So that's my calling in my ministry. And hopefully just spread awareness and talk about women's health issues. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, April. Listen, there is a certain level of confidence and a certain level of power that comes with making fibroids funny, and you did that. Thank you so much. And I know that there are a lot of women. I personally know a lot of women who suffer from the same thing. So thank you so much for sharing your story, and I hope that really gets some other people to go out and get some help as well. So again, thank you so much, April. All right, so our next presenter could not be here. And it's kind of because of the story that he wrote. And so he is a mail carrier, a letter carrier, a mail carrier. He works for the United States Postal Service. And so he has asked that I read his story for him. And so I'm going to do this in the most opposite way that I can possibly think of than how he would write it. The name that he has used here is not his actual name, but I will read the story. And the stories they're actually 3 stories, and they're actually hilarious. So again, this story is called USPS, not UPS. Terrell Stevens, a USPS truck driver out in Flatbush, Brooklyn. He loves what he does and enjoys seeing the community for what it is. Here's a day in the life of young Terrell. Dun dun. By the way, all the sound effects are written into the script. So on April 20th, 2021, Terrell Stevens clocks into work on time. His day starts like any other in the post office. He thinks he's getting off an 8-hour shift, but before he can swipe his badge to start his tour, which is his shift in postal lingo, he's approached by his immediate supervisor, Mr. Burnsdale. Stevens, I'm letting you know you got 6 bangouts. Call out in postal lingo, apparently. So I'm gonna need you to do extra work on other routes. Terrell says, "Yo, Mr. Burnsdale, my girlfriend is pregnant and I need to leave in 8 hours." Burnsdale replies, "Well, that sounds like a personal problem." Terrell, annoyed as he sips his coffee, walks to his truck where he is greeted by his friend and co-worker Ryan Drummer. "Yo, what's good, boy?" says Ryan. "You see the Bulls Burnsdale on?" Terrell replies, "Yeah, I told bro I got to dip early, but she's not trying to hear that." Ryan asks, "Damn, kid, that's grimy. What you told her?" Terrell says, "I told her my girlfriend has a sonogram later today and I'm trying to go." Ryan replies, "For real, for real?" Terrell jokingly, "Nah, bro, I just need to leave early." Ryan laughs. "Man, you's a fool." The two of them go and start loading the truck. After loading the truck, Terrell counts his parcels packages and gives his supervisor a count. "Mrs. Burnsdale, I have 189 parcels." Burnsdale replies, "Take these 40 extra parcels, and you got 12 hours to complete that." Terrell, knowing that he's not going to get out of the overtime, sucks his teeth, grabs his scanner and departs for the street. First stop, 272 Parkside Avenue, Nico Suarez. Now, Terrell doesn't care for Nico Suarez, as many of his neighbors feel the same way, but Terrell knows that it comes with the job. Nico exclaims, "Yo, mailman, you got something for me?" As he walks aggressively towards Terrell. Terrell rolls his eyes, knowing what's coming, states, "My man, I told you, I don't know you. If your package is less than 2 pounds, it comes with the foot carrier." Terrell tries to hide a smirk, but Nico sees him. In an outrage, he yells, "Yo, why you playing me, man?" Terrell replies, "I'm not playing you. I tell you every day, I don't have that package. What changed today?" Nico storms off. "Pero idiota," he screams, upset that he didn't get his package, but he'll be okay, knowing the foot carrier has it. Nico walks away and Terrell screams sarcastically, "Same time tomorrow, knucklehead," as he heads to his next delivery. 60 packages later, in the SpongeBob voice again. 169 packages left. Now Terrell is at 301 Linden Boulevard. I really hope these are not real addresses. where he runs into Amber Johnson, who is a reputation around the neighborhood, and it's not a good one. She has an eye for Terrell for the longest. "Hey, mailman. How you doing, Mrs. Johnson?" Terrell replies, "You got something for me today?" as Amber eyes him up and down. Actually, I do. Here you go. You need to sign for this. Wait, sorry, that was the wrong voice. Actually, yeah, I do. You need to sign for this. I'm getting all of these all mixed up now. Amber signs and says, matter of fact, baby, I have something for you. You want to come inside? See, Terrell knows he's not supposed to enter a customer's house, but Amber Johnson was nice to him. So he enters the apartment. Hey, Miss Johnson, you got a nice apartment. Amber replies, thank you, honey. Just make yourself comfortable on the couch. You want something to drink? Terrell replies, yeah, a cup of water would be fine. Amber goes to the kitchen, grabs 2 cups, and fills them up. She comes back to the couch where Terrell is. Wait a minute, lost my page. Where Terrell is. Here you go, sweetheart. Terrell sips from the cup and realizes it's not water he's drinking. Ms. Johnson, this ain't water. Amber replies with a slight smile. I know. I thought you could use something to make you comfortable. As she walks over to Terrell. Oh no, Ms. Johnson, I really don't mind taking shots with you, but I gotta drive, and I got still packages. I still got packages left. He says, "You sure, sweetie? I'm just trying to make you comfortable." She replies, "I'm good, Ms. Johnson, but I appreciate the shot." As he makes his way to the door, Terrell leaves and makes his way to the truck, thinking about what just happened. He calls his friend Ryan. Yo, boy, guess what just happened to me? You remember Miss Johnson on Linden Boulevard? Ryan replies, yeah, the beautiful one? Terrell replies, yeah, bro. Why she brought me in her house? She had me on the couch. She was putting the moves on me. I had to get out of there. Ryan replies, nah, boy, that's wild. So did you do it? Terrell replies sarcastically and laughs, nah, boy, you know I'm not like that. Ryan says, well, next time, put me on. Terrell replies, I got you. And he hung up, and Terrell continues to work. 150 packages later, 19 to go. It's now towards the end of the route. Terrell is exhausted, hungry, and grumpy. He's now on Ocean Avenue, walking to 555 Ocean Avenue. The last 19 packages of the day, a walking building. On his way into the building, a random person screams at him jokingly, hey, mailman, you got something for me? Terrell looks at him with the most serious face and shouts, I don't know you. Side note, see, mail carriers don't like these jokes. They come off as annoying. Things like, hey, you got my check, or where my stimulus tax returns, or W-2s. The worst corny joke is, stay dry, mailman, in a downpour. Now that Terrell has finished his route, it's time to go back to the station, and it starts to rain. One last thing pickup to do. As he steps off his truck, a random man joking with Terrell says, hey, mailman, wet enough for you? Terrell looks at him with the only irritated look he could muster. The end. So I'm sure that I didn't do that as much justice as he could. But it is absolutely hilarious to me, the stories that come out of our letter carriers. And again, all of our essential workers and our mail people are essential workers that have kept this country absolutely afloat. Because if it wasn't for Amazon and the people who were delivering from Amazon, we probably wouldn't have half the stuff that we needed over the last quarantine. So I want to give it up for all the mail carriers. All right, we got one more storyteller to go. But before we actually go to that storyteller, I wanted to talk about a story that actually happened to me. So I'm gonna tell my story. It's gonna be short because I want to get to our next presenter and close out our night pretty strong. So, as Tim was talking about Hawaii and the winding roads, it reminded me of where my family spends its Christmases, which is on the island of Tobago, which is in Trinidad, which is part of Trinidad and Tobago. And so we enjoy being out in the sun, and it's a tradition to be on the beach on Christmas, hanging out in the water. And So this year, every year, my daughter keeps asking, can we go jet skiing? And every year I say no. She's too small, right? So I was like, no, you can't go jet skiing. You know, we can't go. And every year she keeps asking. And this year, I decide before she even asks, I'm going to say yes. She's finally large enough that she can sit, and she's taking swimming lessons, and I'm going to say yes to jet skiing. So we go over to where the jet skis are, and if you've ever been on one of these Caribbean beaches, it's like cut and paste. It's exactly the same place, right? So the jet skis are right where all the water sports are. So we go over to jet ski place, and I said to them, I was like, said to my daughter, all right, what do you want to do? Your choice. And I'm preparing myself for the jet ski, and she says, let's do paddle boarding. Wait, what? What happened to the 3 years of asking to get on the jet ski? I'm giving you the choice. No, I want to do paddle boarding. Okay. So we go over and we say, hey, listen, can we get 2 paddle boards? And the woman says, well, have you paddle boarded before? And I said, ma'am, no. I've never been on a paddleboard. I have no idea how to use this thing. And she goes, okay, here goes 2 paddle boards. Here's 2 paddles. See you later. Wait a minute. Did you miss the part where I said that I have no idea what I'm doing? And she says, oh, okay, don't worry about it. You just kneel on the paddleboard. When you feel comfortable, you can stand on the paddleboard, and you just use the paddle to move the board along, and just watch out for the rocks. These instructions are strangely deficient. It doesn't seem to recognize the fact that these are 2 people who have never done this before. My kid is just like, okay. And I'm like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die, and I'm taking her down with me. So she walks us over to the edge of the water, and she puts us on the paddle boards, and we get on. And first of all, I knew that was the moment that we should have just turned around, because getting on the damn paddle boards was a chore in and of itself. Kept on falling off, trying to kneel, and I tried to stand up, fell off a couple of times, and we're on the shore, right? So she finally says, look, you might as well just kneel down and just treat it like a canoe, right? Just paddle back and forth and treat it like a canoe. I was like, all right, fine. I guess I can do that. And then as we're leaving, she says, oh, by the way, don't drop the paddles. They don't float. So number one, why did you make paddles that don't float? Like, I think that's a basic flaw in the design. Like, you're going to make that in the water that may or may not fall to somebody's hand. It should float. And lastly, why is that the last thing that you tell me as I am pushing out into sea? Anyway, so we head out, and we're doing relatively okay, but we have zero ability to steer. Zero. And where they send us out, there is a little cove, and then you go around a bunch of rocks, the same rocks that she told us to avoid. But you have to avoid the rocks, go around them, and then there's the larger beach where the rest of the family was sitting. And so when you turn this corner, you can see us out in the ocean, basically on these 2 paddle boards. So we managed to avoid the rocks deftly and narrowly. And each time that my kid paddled one way, she kept on going further and further out to sea. And I could just see the news reports, careless dad loses kid on a paddleboard in the middle of the Caribbean Ocean, in the Caribbean Sea. I just knew that was going to happen to me. So we finally get the hang of it, and we are now in front of the main beach where everybody is standing. And I can see my wife and my mother and a cousin and my mother-in-law and everybody's just standing there going, hey, you guys are doing great, yada, yada, yada. And I said to my daughter, I was like, you know what? I think we've got the hang of this. Why don't we try to stand? Even as I'm saying it out loud now, I knew that there was a mistake the minute that thought came into my head. I tried to stand on the paddleboard and immediately fell off. And when I tell you immediately, there wasn't even a moment of like, oh, I'm kind of getting out in the water immediately, right? So I'm in the water trying to get on the paddleboard. Meanwhile, my daughter is just paddling away with no care in the world. Their old dad is drowning in the Caribbean Sea, and daughter is just paddling away. And meanwhile, she's going further and further out. And now everybody is yelling at my daughter, trying to get her to come back closer to the shore. Did I mention that I was drowning on the paddleboard? And the problem is that I would normally be able just to swim back to the paddleboard and get back on it. But the one thing that was ringing in my mind is the last thing that the woman had told me. What did she say? The damn paddle doesn't float. So I've got one hand on the paddle, one hand trying to swim, and the other foot just trying to grab onto the paddle, and I look absolutely ridiculous. At one point in time, I was upside down underneath the paddle. I've got the paddle up here, and it's just, I'm looking like a floundering duck out in the middle of the ocean. And I look to the shore to see if anybody cares that what's happening, and everybody is concentrating on my daughter, who is now headed to the jetty. She has no steering abilities, and the lifeguard has come out and is headed out to the water to save my daughter. Did I mention I was drowning? The long story short is that the lifeguard comes out and repositions my daughter, gets her headed back. We walk eventually I get back on the paddleboard, exasperated. I lost my favorite hat. I'm still not okay about that. I lost my favorite hat. And if you know anything about me, I love my hats, and I lost one of my favorite hats. And I finally get back on the paddleboard. The lifeguard walks us back to the shallow area, and we walk the paddles all the way back to the place where we rented them from. And the woman has the nerve to ask me, hey, how was it? I was like, ma'am, you should be fired. You let us go out there with no kind of instruction or anything like that. You should be fired. So I get it all the way back, give her all the equipment, including what? The damn non-floating paddles. And we walk back over to where all of my family was. And everybody runs over to us and says, are you okay? To my daughter. Everybody was concerned about whether or not she was okay. Meanwhile, me, who was drowning in the middle of the sea, nobody cared except for one person, my mom. My mom came over and was like, baby, I saw you out there. You almost died. And that whole story is really about the fact that when all else fails, your mama's always going to take care of you, because she was the only one that cared that I was dying out in the middle of the Caribbean Sea. And that's my paddleboard story. So needless to say, I am never going paddleboarding ever again. So the last person that is coming to the mic is one of my favorite persons to listen to. She is full of stories. So when we had a conversation about her doing this, we had to kind of narrow it down about what she was going to talk about. But she is an amazing pastor. She's an amazing hip hop aficionado. And tonight, I am happy to bring to the mic Nicole, who is going to really talk about melding those two things together. She is a powerhouse, all packaged in a very small container. And so I am happy to bring to the mic Nicole to the mic to talk about melding hip hop and her ministry.
Oh, look, I can see me.
Yeah.
Usually, like, the mic is kind of taller than I am, but here we go. So what's up, everybody? My name is Reverend Nikki Duncan Smith. I was born exactly a month and a week after the designated day for the start of hip hop. Born on September 18th, 1973, and hip hop was born August the 11th, 1973. I was also born into a family that's like really, really religious. My grandparents were deacons. My grandmother on my mom's side was, she cursed, but she used to carry the Bible too. So she's from the South. So stuff like that happens. Because I think Jesus cussed too, but that's another story. And he said we have to narrow it down. So I grew up in this family that was really, really religious, and I adored going to church. There's nothing better than going to church and seeing them women with them big old hats and the gloves, and the men with the nice suits and the bow ties and looking just like Hayden. Like, I love going to church. And when I would go to church, I would love to like sit up in the front. My grandfather was a deacon and he would sing, and everybody would be like, "Sing, deacon." I'd be like, "That's my grandfather." You know, when the old ladies would come and they'd be like, they used to call him Bay because my grandmother called him Bay. So I had a problem with anybody calling my grandfather Bay because I know Bay is short for baby. So nope. I was right there and get butterscotch candy and just sit right there with him. Like, nope. Grandmother's not here. I love church. And I love all of the things that I love. We went to a Baptist church, so when we had communion, we didn't have juice like they do now. They had real wine. So I love like drinking the wine during communion and scrunching up your face, like, and knowing that the older people were looking and they were like babies. I love church, but I also loved Roxanne Shante. And I also loved Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. I loved Rakim. I love Big Daddy Kane. I love Sweet Teas and the Groove. Your mom fat beef and say, "Mom, do the what?" I love me some hip hop. So I, by chance, went to a church that also had another member named Will Smith, growing up in the same church as the Fresh Prince. So for me, hip hop and church kind of went hand in hand. And at any given time, somebody will pick up a hymnal and we'll wrap it up. We'll be like, "Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine." Oh, what? No, maybe we were the only ones rocking like that. I love hip hop and I love church, but I also grew up in a very traditional Baptist church. So my love for church only was confined to maybe being in the pew. On a youth Sunday, they might let me read the announcements. You know, I could speak at the women's brunch, but I was a speaker, you know. When I wound up going to college, I went to Spelman in Atlanta, and you know, it's a Christian school, so I was in Christian classes. And then I took classes at Morehouse and I started volunteering. And this notion is tugging at my heart that your love for church might be just a little more than everybody else. Because I could just go from the club and go right to church and be in the church, in the club, actually talking about scripture to people. And it used to be weird. So then, but I would do it. And everybody who were my friends would say, "Oh, don't get Nikki started because she's going to start praying for people." And that's just who I was, because I love me some church and I love me some hip hop. So I remember that I asked a question to a deacon: would it be ever possible for me to preach a sermon like the boys get to do on Youth Sunday? No, because you are a girl. And women do not preach. They speak at the women's lunch. And that's what I had been doing. But something inside of me kept saying, there's something more. I abandoned that notion, just said, okay, I'm a church person. I'll just go to church. I love church. I love me some Jesus, and we can all love Jesus, right? Sing in the choir. I sing solo. Solo that really, y'all didn't hear nothing else because y'all don't want me to kind of, see, I'm a rapper. So if you want me to be like, I can get that for you, but I can't hold no melody. My daughter can, but I can't. I just resigned to just going into the music industry and working with my love of hip hop. But what happened is I would wind up being in my office and somebody would knock on the door. It might be 50 Cent today. It might be Shanti tomorrow. It might be whomever. It might be whomever will come and knock on my door. And they knew that they could come to me and I would pray with them. And I said, okay, that's what it is, God. My call is to be a witness to people in the darkness. Be a witness to people who don't like church, because church don't like them. Because I later found out that hip hop was that welcomed in the church. Didn't know that. Thought that, you know, I know it sinners and everything all over the place. I didn't realize that, you know, in churches, Those sins, some sins were better than other sins. Just didn't know that. So I said, okay, that's my ministry. My ministry would be to preach and teach to people who don't like church. But I won't be a preacher. I just be a lover of God and just witnessing to people. I wound up moving to New York and going to this amazing church in Brooklyn. Church is very, very heavy in liberation theology, and it's very male-centric. It was lifting the Black man up so that the Black man can be strong as he should be, as he is, and confident in his role in this world. But I love that church because I love this church because it reminds me of all of the amazing spaces that we don't get to occupy because we're so busy worrying about what other people think. This church, you can be who you are, what you are, but you know what? As a woman, I could not be a preacher. That's fine because I already resigned to, I'm a hip hop person that loves God and I can witness in the streets. One day I'm on a train. I'm on this train coming from Coney Island to Bed-Stuy or Crown Heights, like the Q or something like that. This woman with a Jamaican accent walks up to me. I'm reading, writing, and she says, "Oh, the Lord told me that I have a message for you." So you got a message for me? Yes, because I'm trained to be anything on Sunday, right? So she said, "The Lord told me that you will be preaching." I said, "Oh, word? Amen. Thank you. Praise the Lord. Amen." And she said, No. The Lord told me that you're going to be preaching and that you need to stop playing and answer your call. You know what you're supposed to be doing. I'm like, thank you. Amen. Got off the train. I was like, that lady's crazy. I don't know who she's just walking up to me. So I said, okay, she don't even know what church I go to. Now, this is during revival at my church. So I go to revival. I'm singing in the choir. Again, solo that you don't really hear me. I got the whole mouth like, I'm like, but you can't really hear anything, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm in here. I'm praising the Lord. And I feel a tugging at me. And I hear a voice kind of saying, I'm talking to you, you're not listening. And I'm singing, and I'm like, but I'm noticing that they can see me because I'm short, I'm in the front of the choir. So I'm not in the back. So I'm like, let me get it together and ignore that. Next day comes. I'm on the train, but this time I'm at the shuttle part. Same train, but kind of the shuttle on the other way. Same woman walks up to me and says, you don't believe me because your church don't have no female preachers there. But the Lord told me that not only are you going to preach, but you're going to use hip hop to reach other people. Now I'm shaking. Now I'm like, what? And then it's like on the shuttle, like platform, she just disappears into the crowd. It was truly a New York moment. Crazy Jamaican lady comes speaks to me, and she had the baby. So I was like, oh, where'd she go? And how she know I love hip hop? I mean, I'm sure, well, maybe she looked at me and I kind of looked like you, because I'm looking like it. Maybe it's that. How did she know that my church had not had women clergy yet? How did she know these things? So I go to church on my way back to the revival. And I say, God, I hear that you're talking to me, but you got to confirm it because it could just be my ego. I just want to be a preacher, want to be seen. You have to do something incredible so I can be totally sure that it's you speaking to me. And right then, the preacher who is preaching, Dr. Freddie Haynes, says, I don't know why I'm saying this right now, but it just occurred to me, I need to tell y'all this story. Earlier, when Barack Obama, y'all know that I'm Barack Obama's like advisor, we're all like, yes, Pastor, go ahead, amen. Like we're in it. And he says, did y'all know that his grandmother was able to vote for him, even though she died right before the election? She sent in the absentee ballot. I started crying. Why did I start crying? Because earlier that morning on the Today Show, they had mentioned that fact. And I remember stopping saying, wow, that is interesting. That's interesting. And just moving on. To me, confirmation comes in several different ways. One, it's going to tap you on your shoulder with something that only you know. Just like that lady, the crazy Jamaican lady saw me on the subway. Nobody else would have known that I was a hip hop lover because I was dressed up like not that way, you know. Maybe it's in my walk or maybe it's in my, but she knew very specifically that God wanted me to move. Now the challenge is, how do I approach my church? Because I know clearly that women don't preach at my church. So I remember that, well, I go, and the senior pastor was retiring all at the same time. And the new pastor welcomed me into his chamber. I come in and I say, I gotta leave. God has called me to preach, and I know I can't preach here. He's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I actually affirm women as preachers. You gotta go to seminary, but I affirm you. Long story short, went to seminary, graduated top of my class, the first female to be licensed and ordained at the St. Paul Community Baptist Church. And guess what? Every time I preach, I got me some hip hop with me, and I'm bringing more and more young people to the table, because at the end of the day, whichever modality you show up in, God will use you just as you are. And so that was my story to tell. Here's our little robe.
The road.
I gotta swag it out though.
Give it up, ladies and gentlemen, for Nicole Duncan Smith, ladies and gentlemen. Pastor Nicole Duncan Smith. Yeah. I've been watching a little bit too much Coming to America. I'm sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, you have stuck it out with us, and I want to thank you so much for being here with us tonight for the 3rd annual Story to Tell. I want to give it up to all of our storytellers tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Put your hands together. We're gonna replay this, so if you missed any of it, or if you need to replay it and you know, give yourself a little bit of a boost, or you want to avoid the mishaps of Anthony's engagement, or avoid the hotel that Tim went to, or connect with Kiki and find out how you can get involved on campus, or talk a little with April about fibroids and what treatments there are out there, or connect with Abe about being a first responder, or I'll put you in contact with the letter carrier. Or if you just need to hear the word from Nicole Duncan Smith, please reach out. I hope you had a great time tonight. Again, I thank everybody for being here. And this has been the last major program that we have had for the Multicultural Center. And hopefully you'll stay with us. And when you come back next year, we will be back and strong. We're at 100% on campus next semester, and we are ready to welcome you back into the space. So again, thank you so much, everybody, and good night. My name is Hayden Green. Get home safely.